Dropping your first 20 kill and 4,000 damage game is not getting any easier these days. Luckily for you though, I'm covering all the best tips and tricks so that you not only can achieve this, but do it in a much quicker fashion. The first step to having one of these games is already having at least a 2.5k damage game, but more preferably, having a 3,000 damage game. It's going to be nearly impossible to just skip ahead to a 4k and a 20 without already achieving some high damage or high kill games in the past. Now, if that's already taken care of, regardless of what map you're playing on, once you begin the game, you want to pay attention to the dropship's flight path. Each game, this will be different, so you gotta follow the traffic. Now, I'm not saying you need to drop with 7 other teams at 1 POI, but you at least need to take note of where people are landing before you choose to drop. This will help you out after your initial landing. Now, as far as where to land, well, you have to drop into some action. You want to bank on getting some early kills and damage off of rip. So depending on the size of POI that you're going to land at, you want to be going there with a couple other teams at best, or landing nearby to a few teams so that you could quickly loot up and go and third party them. This is going to help build the momentum for the rest of the match, but also if you do it right, you will be able to capitalize on some easier kills. Maybe those enemies won't have great loot, or maybe they'll already be weak from fighting another team. Either way, you're going to have to pounce on any of these opportunities, while still playing it smart to stay alive. I may make this sound easier said than done, but a decent start to the game is truly important for these high damage, high kill games. It sets you up for success later on down the line. Now, a lot of players can get this first part down, but then they make some mistakes and it severely can affect the outcome of the rest of the match. The most common mistake I see is just not moving quick enough after the initial drop. This could be because the player wants to find their ideal loadout or get fully kitted on attachments. Whatever it is, you can just boil it down to them being greedy. Try to replenish your loot off of your kills and maybe loot a bit along the way to your next fight. Sweaty players know that they can let their enemies do the tedious aspects of looting for them by just wiping them from the game and taking their stuff. This will be pivotal for a high damage, high kill game. However, another common mistake is players start drifting throughout the map without any idea of where to find enemies. Maybe they aren't reacting to nearby shots ringing out, or maybe they have no idea where to look for enemies in respect to where they are on the map and where the circle is pulling. This is why I said it's important to pay attention to the dropship's flight path and where you may have seen other teams land. You can make assumptions on where those teams that came out alive may be rotating to when you're trying to search for them. I know some of you are thinking, well, some games I have a great start and I truly just can't find anyone after that. I search and before I know it, there's only like 3 teams left. And I'm here to say, I know the feeling, I've been in those games. I'm gonna cover that later in the video though. Alright, moving on to what loadouts you should run when trying to attempt these high damage games. To be honest, it can vary pretty widely. A lot of weapons in Apex right now are viable. I would say most aggressive players tend to run an AR and an SMG or a shotgun. Weapons like R301, Flatline, paired with a car, Volt, or Mastiff are great options. But that's not to say you can't sit back with a weapon like a G7 Scout or some other ranged gun and stack up similar damage numbers. I think the most important thing in all of this is just having a weapon that can be compatible at a mid to long range, but also having a close range weapon for when you need it. See, most high kill, high damage games will fundamentally center around being closer to your opponents. Why? Well, the obvious reason is you need to get those full kills off, not just knock your enemies. And this is way easier to achieve when you're closer to them, but it certainly comes with some risk. Thirsting enemies also adds an additional 100 damage to your total damage counter, which can heavily assist in achieving a 4K game. If you're going just for the 4K badge and not the 20 kill, you could always take the route of using a sniper and just focus on damage farming your opponents. Some people may think this is a cheap way to do it, and while it may not be as exciting as running around and killing everyone, it's still not an easy thing to do. You not only need the opportunities to come your way, but you also need to seize them. And I've dropped many 4K and 20 kill games, and I can confidently say, the more you're able to control and facilitate the outcome in a BR game, the better of a player you truly are. Now, one factor in all of this that can't be overlooked is your teammates. They can either help you or royally screw you out of getting one of these exciting games. I can tell you confidently that I've been screwed out of more 4K damage and 20 bomb games than I have been helped out with by random teammates. I think some purposely screw their teammates over because they don't want to see them achieve this, but I also think a portion of players do it on accident. They may not understand what you're actually trying to achieve. Many times I've had 17 kill games and we're about to go against the last squad. I try to tell my mates, hey, let me try to kill the last 3 players so I can get this 20 kill game. And usually one of them all of a sudden wants to be the most aggressive player in the world and take one of those kills, leaving me with either 18 or 19 kills at the end. It's honestly tragic because this isn't something that is possible every game, at least not for players like me and you. So you can either not tell them when you're close to something and just see if you can get it on your own, or you can squad up with some of your friends who you may actually be able to trust to help you out with this. Most of the time, that help you'll need is literally your teammates doing nothing except for not dying. If they do too much, they may take some of that action away that you may need, like some additional damage or one of the few remaining kills left in the match. Teammates are honestly a huge component in this, and you can try to go about it no filling if you want, but I think that's way harder in a lot of times. Because of the SPMM and the way matches work, you're going to be paired against good players, and those players are often squatted up together. So if you're just running around alone, it's really hard to pull off a high damage, high kill game without some assistance, even if that assistance is your teammates taking some of the heat away from you because you're going to be outnumbered in every single fight. If you find yourself in a potential position to achieve a 4K damage game or a 20 kill game and you're getting towards the end of the match, you have to pay attention to the numbers. The squads left alive will gauge what is possible and what is not. Sometimes you may be able to let your opponents get a respawn off, and that way they are able to have a full 3-man team. Other times, you may need to farm a little bit of damage because you thought you were going to run into the 3 remaining teams, but you only came across 1. And if you need 1,000 damage, you may have to farm a little. You have to get creative, but pay attention to the numbers. All of this boils down to simple math. It's easily possible to get 200 to 300 damage off per opponent if you do it right. But you have to get those thirsts, and you have to make sure you're killing all 3 of them and maybe farming a little bit of damage off of them. Don't get too greedy though. You're not going to be able to control every single fight. Like I said, SPMM is a factor. Players are good these days. So don't think you're going to manipulate and facilitate every single fight to your favor. The more you try to do that, the more you'll actually overlook your opposition in a lot of these matches. Try to gauge them as you're actively fighting. Do they come off as passive or do they seem really aggressive? Are they moving in a coordinated manner or is one always split off? If you can find these little bits of information, you may be able to build more of a narrative against the team you're going against. And this can only help you because in Apex, knowledge is power. And lastly, this is a battle royale shooter, so a little bit of luck will go a long way. Sometimes a lot of it. But this can't be confused with the sole reason as to why someone drops a 4K or a 20. We all get lucky, each and every match, in whatever way that may look like. But it's what we do to take advantage of the luck that puts one in the position to have a great game like this. And guys, this stuff takes time. You could do nearly everything right and fall just a little bit short. You could have 18 kills or 3,800 damage. It's frustrating. I've been there. I've had countless games just short of them. But when I look back at what's the difference between that and actually having one, it's often nothing major. In fact, it could be the smallest minute detail that didn't happen in my match. Maybe I needed to run into 2 teams and there was only 3 left, but I only found 1. And because of that, I was a few hundred damage short, or I was a few kills short. If you're able to get close to a 4K or a 20, but you fall short, just try to replicate what you did in the previous match. I know it's frustrating, but you can do it. Pay attention to the numbers, drop smart, have a good loadout, make sure you have enough heals to withstand a lot of damage, and be confident in your fights. Just make sure you're not doing these 8 things that stop improvement in Apex Legends. I covered it all in this video here. Check it out next. Peace.